Church, how's everybody tonight? If you would, stand up and worship with me, please. I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. And oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can.
Y'all can be seated. Thank you, Colby. Thank you guys for joining us in worship. Y'all, just a couple of quick things. Just one main thing is we got the prayer sheets right down here for you, so you can grab those on the way out. These prayer sheets have been newly updated every Wednesday, sometimes in the minutes before I come in here, as it was tonight. They are that fresh, that hot off the press, is updated with the newest of prayer requests that we come together as a family and pray over these folks. Some of whom are in the church, some are outside of the church. If you've got a prayer request that you want the whole church to pray with you about, you can talk to Cindy Thompson or Kristen Turney, and she's here on Wednesdays, and Cindy's back here on Sundays. And if you want to reach out to them by text or by phone, it's on the back of this sheet as well. You can call them and let them know, and they'll put your request out either here and also on the Facebook. There's a Prayer Warriors page that they put that on. So please be in prayer over these things. And also, you can read through the description, and there's updates and sometimes many praise reports to praise God about, as He has done many things. He provides, He heals, And so it's all on there. So use those. Tonight, chapter 7, good chapter. All of them are good. I hope you're enjoying this. And Brandon Felder, not Lewis. We got a number of folks here with that Brandon name. We got a couple of Brandons and a Brendan. Anyhow, Brandon Felder is in a men's group that I'm in on Monday nights. And it's the men's group who also host our men's groups on Wednesday nights. And we've been meeting since about a year, since last August. We've been having a good time. And right now, I mentioned it Sunday, we're going through Ephesians. And so it's good stuff. But, so we've gotten to know each other better, us men. And so we play some jokes on each other. And so I've got up here some pictures of Felder. We call him Felder since there's two Brandons in the group. And so we got Felder right here and right here. The only two that I could find on his Facebook page of just him. Without his wife or kids in the mix. And so what I'd done, I didn't even think I'd do this tonight. It just literally dawned on me as I was walking out of my office a moment ago with these fresh printouts. I'd used this before in his group. He speaks to a men's group on Wednesday, and I'd gone and put in these pictures and this. And so why do I have this? Well, I'm glad I have it for Felder. But my mom sent me this. I don't know why. She goes to yard sales all the time. She probably found this somewhere for a quarter. And she sends every now and then boxes to us with largely stuff for the grandkids. And in it was this, and she texts me later, Brandon, did you get that thing that I sent you? And I'm like, yes, I sure did. I was able to use it in a joke with another friend of mine named Brandon. So I don't know why this exists. So, somebody was asking me if I'm running for something. It looks like that. It looks like a political. But no, nobody's running for anything. In fact, Felder's going to come up, Brandon Felder, and lead us in a discussion or in a review of chapter 7. Felder, come on up. Right. Y'all give it up for Felder as he's running for something. I guess he'll tell you about it.
Well, thank you, Pastor Brandon. What a wonderful, warm introduction there. So, chapter 7 of Keller's book, Even Though I Walk Through the Valley. Any of you use this before? Raise your hand if you've ever used one of these. Okay. That's a lot of hands. Just wanted to see who has cheated in school, who has not. No, I'm just kidding. So it's been really interesting over the last few weeks to see the different ways that people review the topics and review the chapter. When Pastor Brandon said, hey, would you be willing? This is what came to mind. I'll do the Cliff's Notes version of chapter 7. So that's what I'm going to do. So thank you, Trey, for putting that up there. Chapter 7, even though I walk through the valley. So Keller begins this chapter explaining how here at the halfway point of Psalm 23, the sheep's view is turned toward the shepherd directly. So personal pronouns are used, I and you. So let me read to you Psalm 23:4. It says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And so in the chapter, we read about the long treks into the high country for the summer. And the most efficient sheepmen, they take their flocks onto these distant ranges during the summer, and they spend just intimate time with them, with their flock. And this movement, they call them drives. And so the sheep move slowly up the mountains, feeding as they go along. And then as autumn approaches, they start to move down as the snow is settling into the high ridges. And then finally, when fall ends, they arrive back at the ranch for the winter. And so that time spent on the drive is just fully alone with the shepherd. And so David, who wrote Psalms, he'd be very familiar with this time. And when Samuel was sent by God to anoint David the king over Israel, they had to send for him to come back early from that high mountain drive. So Keller is talking about all this in these first pages. And David would know all the trials, the troubles, but also the joys of the time that would be spent out on the summer range. And he would have gone out and surveyed the path. No matter what happened, he would know how to best care for the flock throughout that drive. And so that's what likely prompted him to write, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. He knows God has also surveyed the path ahead. And Keller points out in the Christian life, there's sometimes talk of wanting to move onto a higher ground with God. People desire mountaintop experiences, and they want to enter an even more intimate walk with the Lord. And he points out that people sometimes they kind of think of it the wrong way. They're thinking that I'm going to be airlifted to the mountaintop. It's easy. It's a pain-free journey. Boom, I'm there. But the only true way to get there is through the valleys. And so this is where Keller begins to give us 3 reasons that valleys are used for sheep. First is every mountain has valleys. And I was like, And the best way to get to the top of the mountain is along the valley. So me being me, I'm like, that's some new information. what's the first mountain I think of is Mount Everest. So I took a look and I said, I wonder if Mount Everest has a valley. So I just did a quick little search, and I said, let's take a look at a video and see if I wanted to climb Mount Everest, what would be the best route. If you'll go ahead and hit that for me, Trey. And sure enough, here's Mount Everest, big, beautiful, God's creation. Aha, starts right there in a valley at the base. That's where the base camp starts before you move up along the ranges. So thank you, Trey. So sure enough, valleys, they must be traveled through to reach the mountains and the mountaintops. And Keller is sure to point out that the verse states, I walk through. You don't die there or stop there. The shepherd has us walk through the valleys. So although this verse is often used for those who may be nearing death, it is wise to remember for Christians that death is not the end, but it's rather a doorway to the life with Christ, which is, of course, the highest peak of them all. And Keller even shared in the chapter about the 2 years that his wife was battling cancer before she passed, and he stated that they walked through that valley together without fear, knowing that the shepherd was leading them to higher ground. So the book talks about how we must trust God, that even when we go through difficulties, the path he has us on will be the easiest and gentlest possible to reach the higher ground. He's with us in that difficult valley, ever leading the way and protecting us. So that was the first reason. The second reason that sheep are taken through valleys is due to it being usually the well-watered route. So you've got rivers, streams, springs, pools that are providing refreshing water to restore the sheep along this path through that summer drive. And Keller even talks about a time where there was a summer and another flock of different shepherds passed through their area, and they had like 10,000 sheep. And the owners asked permission, is any way that we could water the sheep here at the river? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And the sheep basically ran to the water once they were given permission. So Keller lets us know in the book that as Christians, sooner or later, we're going to discover that it's in the valleys of our lives that we find refreshment from God himself. And next, the author talked about how only people who've been through the valleys can comfort, console, or encourage those in similar situations. And I love this part so much, I wanted to read directly from the book. This is exactly how he penned it in there. The simple fact is that just as water can only flow in a ditch or channel or valley, so in the Christian's career, the life of God can only flow in blessing through the valleys that have been carved and cut into our own lives by excruciating experiences. For example, the one best able to comfort another in bereavement is the person who himself has lost a loved one. The one who can best minister to a broken heart is one who has known a broken heart. I thought that was just a perfect picture of there are times where you can use those valleys and you can use it to benefit others in the Christian walk, and you're the best equipped to do that. And so lastly, the third reason why ranchers take their flocks into the valleys is that that's where the best food is found. Slowly and gently, the herd is guided to spots that have the food sources, and the shepherds, he scouted these paths before. And one of the reasons is he's got to know where's the place where you're most likely to watch out for predators, where you have nature that could be precarious with storms or rock slides. And Keller talked about how storms are actually one of the largest threats to a sheep's life. If sheep get soaked and chilled with freezing rain, the exposure kills them in a very short time. And the Lord, he also knows of the storms that we're to face. So as a child of God, we get strength and we get courage from him. And looking back, we can see those storms that we've passed through and how he took care of us in them and how he knew of those trials to come. So that reassurance allows us to confidently face the storms ahead as we walk through the valleys. And with Christ, we're able to face the valleys calmly, knowing that his Spirit will guide us. And with them, we reach the higher ground. So those of you who know me pretty well are aware of how much I love movies. And I've heard it said that our lives are a grand story that God has written. So, do you remember that great movie where the main character went through the story and nothing ever difficult really happened, and the whole plot was just kind of like an easygoing ordeal? Yeah, me neither. That's because God wants us to use our story to glorify him. And in order to do that, our stories will have difficult times or valleys. So we have to embrace it, give him the glory for the guidance, and let others know about it when we get to the other side. So that covers chapter 7, Even Though I Walk Through the Valley. I hope your discussions go well. You're dismissed.